Cutback for Vasilev, and Lukic! A banger of a strike for Jovan Lukic's first MLS goal! It's fallen out to Westfield! Oh, wow! He's nearly taken the roof of the net off! Philadelphia pounce again! Who gets his goal in his Union debut? The record signing, off and running in his first appearance for the club.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and it just had to be Tai Baribo scoring against the Philadelphia Union as the Union go and lose that game 1-0, as we just had an appearance from Jose's son, Raphael, who has a birthday coming up here in a couple more weeks. But it had to be Tai Baribo, and it was either going to go one of two ways. Either Baribo has a quiet game or he scores a goal. Could have had two last night, but of course it was Baribo getting the lone goal in the 1-0 win. But I said it, Jose was joined by his son Raphael, so that means Jose Nunez is here. Jose, how you doing?
Much better, man. I went from feeling great after winning our adult soccer league one night to the following 48 hours, just having a fever of 101. My son also having a fever of 101, 102 for nearly a day and a half, 2 days. But now on the way back, and unfortunately, had to watch what we watched last night, right? You saw it in person. I saw it through a screen. And it is what it is. It was not pretty, but it was something. I think a lot of positives, actually, but I'm sure we can talk about that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there are positives, and certainly we'll play or talk about some of those positives. Lots of clips to play, so I don't know. Maybe I'll try my best not to talk as much, and so we can get to probably like 6 or 7 clips we have as the kids go and do their classic joke. I don't even know if they do that still, but yeah, we do have a lot to talk about. We do have news to talk about, which is always fun. We do have Blunder of the Week. I told you guys last episode that we're going to go ahead and bring back since it is the start of the season. But before we do all that, and I was trying to look, Jose here. Oh, there it is. It's been a while since we played a news intro, and I was like, do I even have it saved into StreamYard? We do indeed. So without further ado, let's get straight into the news. All right, so the Philadelphia Union, this was reported by you a couple hours ago, Jose. They are finalizing a loan deal to send CJ Olney to USL Championship side Brooklyn FC, which would be the second Philadelphia Union player to join former Philadelphia Union 2 head coach Marlon Blanc in Brooklyn. Marcus Anderson being the first, CJ Olney would be the second. I don't know. Could there potentially be more Union players on the way? I don't know. We shall see. One player I know I joke about that I'm sure he would love to have in Brooklyn is Frankie Westfield. There is no way in hell the Union would loan out Frankie Westfield. But yeah, I mean, seeing CJ Olney have a loan deal finalized to go to Brooklyn, reuniting under his former head coach and Marlon LeBlanc, who, let's face it, Jose, when Marlon was in charge, you had Frankie Westfield and CJ Olney make it into the best 11 for MLS Next Pro. CJ and Frankie both had a phenomenal season 2 years ago when Union 2 went to the MLS Next Pro final against North Texas. We know what happened last year with CJ Olney getting loaned out to Lexington. Didn't really work out in the end for him. Returns back to Union 2 in MLS Next Pro and gets back to similar levels to where he was a year ago. But we talk about it all the time here, Jose, that there are multiple players in this organization that do not need to be playing MLS Next Pro anymore, that they have graduated. They need to be playing at a higher level. And now here goes CJ Olney, it looks like, to get a chance number 2 in USL Championship.
Yeah, no, per sources today, I checked with 3 people actually, and a fourth, technically, if you really count who I think you know who I'm talking about. CJ arrived today in Brooklyn, was part of practice, I think, or was involved in watching. I'm not sure. He was certainly in Brooklyn today. So yeah, they're finalizing it. It's far along as I believe I'm told by 2 people. And yeah, he joins Marcus Anderson, who I know has not been officially announced, though. I guess what I would offer is Coach Marlon LeBlanc. I don't know if he realized that he slipped or not, but posted an Instagram reel of him nutmegging Marcus Anderson and also tagged Marcus Anderson in the very same video. So despite the Union sharing Marcus Anderson's jersey number in that post from a couple of days ago, Marcus Anderson physically, I believe, is in Brooklyn, unless he came back to Philadelphia for whatever reason. So, the one thing I would say also, Todd, is that he's technically the third Union connection that I can immediately think of, with former Union 2 captain, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing it, Stefan Stojanovic, is that how you say it? But he went to Las Vegas, I think, shortly after the Union 2, and then I think this was his next move. I don't think he's bounced around beyond that. So, and who knows, is there another Union 2 Union's homegrown that could be also considering moving to Brooklyn as well? I don't know. I'm happy for CJ, I think. Immediately, maybe taking the press hat off for a second. I think I'm happy for him. I think this is a place where he's going to get game time. I think this is a place where he's going to be able to develop. I truly do believe that this is just a healthy connection, right? A coach that knows him, a player that understands his coach, and expectations that he's going to be a number one starter from the get-go. And after having some more conversations with sources, I went from thinking that this Brooklyn roster was a goofy as hell roster to genuinely one of the youngest, most exciting rosters that you're going to see in USL this year, considering some of the other players that are yet to be announced. Not Union connections, but just other names that I recognize that I'll let Brooklyn announce. I don't like to parachute into other territories too much, but certainly a team to watch, not just Marlon, CJ, and Marcus, Stefan as well, but just genuinely going to be a fun roster to watch.
Yeah, I agree with you. And there's a comment here from Drew. He said, I like the Brooklyn pipeline if they can build it. And it's an interesting idea, right? I don't think that having a connection in USL is a bad thing. I mean, look, you look at different teams in MLS. LAFC had a partnership with Bayern Munich, I believe it was at one point. I don't know if they still have that partnership. Porto, I believe, has a partnership with some club in MLS, and so it isn't unheard of to see professional leagues have these sort of partnerships. And if Philadelphia can have a partnership with Brooklyn, then why not? But here's my question, but here's a thought, and I don't think that you and I have been shy, Jose, about our thoughts on MLS Next Pro. If the Union feel comfortable sending guys out to other USL Championship teams, then what's that tell you about MLS Next Pro, right? That the quality isn't there to develop these guys at a higher level that the first team wants, and so I don't know. I mean, what exactly does that say for MLS Next Pro? Where, yeah, theoretically, you would want to see young players like a CJ Olney, who theoretically is an up and coming player that fans want to see with the first team, but obviously he's too good for MLS Next Pro. So what exactly does that say about MLS Next Pro? And I don't know what this league is going to look like in a couple of years, if I'm being honest, Jose. If we have more and more teams say, look, we have guys that are too good for this league, but they're not good enough for MLS Next, and so now they're sending players to the USL Championship. That's a terrible knock on MLS Next Pro, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a tough look, and frankly, I don't think that you and I are smart enough to unilaterally classify where the pyramid stands and each level, but it's pretty clear, I think, to any ball knower / admirer of the game that MLS Next Pro is a great place for the right player. But when the right player needs a different challenge, USL is the place to go. On the only move, though, what I will add is, again, per sources, the the Lexington move was just very difficult for CJ. Just the physicality of it all was pretty rough. And talking to other people who knew about the Lexington deal and knew about the Lexington organization at the time, it has changed drastically since last year, considering everything they're trying to achieve this off season. That was also a really rough setup at the time for CJ to develop. A maybe not so great coach, maybe not the right backing in terms of what was trying to be achieved, and ultimately obviously cord was pulled on the loan. So I'm excited to see how this works for CJ. Certainly a player with an incredible upside. I think as you said, any international or any admirer of the sport will tell you that this is probably the right move for CJ, who, his stats alone tell the tale of someone who needs to move on from MLS Next Pro and go play elsewhere. I'm actually kind of shocked, and I don't know if the physicality was the issue, but I could have sworn that he may have been, and I don't know Lyngby's situation, but he could have been a great candidate to go to Lyngby and play. Is he as good as our friend playing defense over there, whose last name is literally escaping me, but he's the gigantic center back.
Pierre.
Thank you, Pierre, the blue chip prospect, only the blue chip prospect that the Union have at center back. I would have thought that CJ would have been an interesting candidate to go play over there, but maybe the physicality and the roster makeup of that team prevented it from happening. But again, it doesn't get much better than having, a former Union 2 coach taking in some of these Union 2 players to give them a second chance at their career. Though I think CJ is the only one, as we mentioned before, to have ever survived a Union loan and come back to tell the tale, right? Because they usually, once they go on loan, you kind of don't see them again.
Yeah, it's very, very true. And so to see CJ get brought back and now sent out on loan again, I don't know. Maybe the organization still does have plans for CJ, and we'll see. Time will tell. And I know you and I were talking a little bit earlier this afternoon, saying, well, let's assume that Marcus Anderson or CJ Olney plays well enough for Marlin in Brooklyn. Maybe the following year they get a transfer fee for these players, and so you never know exactly what's going to happen in the world of soccer. Just like fans did not know when this deal was going to officially be done, and nothing's official yet. But Jonathan Tannenwald reported on it last night. You reported on it this afternoon, Jose. That is, the Philadelphia Union are finalizing a deal to sign left back Philippe Ndinga from
What did you call me?
Dinga?
What did you just call me? I'm just kidding.
Degerfors in Sweden, top flight. So a 20-year-old left back looks to be on his way. I would not expect him to be available to play on Thursday. Again, this hasn't been officially announced by the Philadelphia Union. And again, if I'm being honest too, I'd be shocked too if let's say this does get announced early in the week. I'd be shocked if he plays a major role on Sunday against New York City. But it does look like at last the Philadelphia Union are signing their Kai Wagner replacement in a young 20-year-old left back from Sweden.
Yeah. How do I phrase this? Confirmation came through late yesterday, and then I checked, and I wanted to make sure to give credit to Jonathan Tannenwald of the Philadelphia Inquirer, who was able to confirm it. Whoever his source is, I'm not really even sure, and that's a good thing. That's how it's supposed to be. But yeah, it sounds like he's on his way. This is a deal that I had sort of sat on draft wise for a while. I think Mike, I believe, read my draft. I think you had read my draft at one point, even before Tom Bogert posted. And just out of respect, listen, I always give a little bit behind the scenes, but that's one that, I was told that there was one bigger hurdle to work through. And then I think like a day later or 2 days later, Tom Bogert had posted about it, and I checked with my sources, and they sort of said, yeah, kind of interesting that whoever Bogert's sources are felt comfortable saying that it was, sort of in a stage that it can be announced. everybody has different comfort levels in terms of dealing with deals. But I was told that it was a major-ish hurdle that, though they're fairly confident, to kind of hold off. And I think that's sort of the name of the game, right? It's how comfortable you are with a little bit of uncertainty with all of these things. So happy that the Union get this guy. Whenever he's holding a jersey here in the next couple of days, I would think, maybe next week. But one thing to remember, and I think readers of our content and Mike's content, aka our content and AT Sports, the Free Kick, my Substack, your Substack, Todd, I think our readers are smart enough to understand this. The guy's coming in to do a near impossible job. There's no way anybody can fill the shoes completely of a Kai Wagner, and I think that's sort of the scope that it needs to be framed around. Not saying that Philippe, can't be serviceable or won't be serviceable, but also don't necessarily expect that he's going to meet and exceed Kai Wagner. That's a near impossible task considering what the guy achieved in Philadelphia. But I think people who follow our stuff are level-headed enough to realize that. So eager to see what he brings. Hard to find a lot of game film on that team specifically and the player as a whole. But it can't. It can only be better than what maybe. And I want to be fair because I know we'll talk about the situation, but it can only be better than what was displayed yesterday and certainly during preseason with the different left backs that the team tried.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And yeah, we'll see when they can get him in. And I would imagine with the injuries that seem to be piling up, Bradley Garnell would be hoping sooner rather than later. But let's go ahead and talk about yesterday's DC United versus Philadelphia Union match. The game ended 1-0, like you said in the intro. You guys all know you watched it because you guys earlier in the show were not happy with with that performance. Chris says, "What the hell was that? Ouch." Jarrett says, "A freaking course. It had to be Tai Baribo." Jazz says, "Can Rafa play left back?" Val said, "Please tell us the positives." And so, yeah, fans, let us know your thoughts on the game. I mean, of course, like I said, it had to be Tai Baribo scoring, and of course, a first-time finish. And we can go ahead and talk about that real quick, Jose, before we talk about maybe the attacking troubles by the Union, the lineup, and all that stuff. Baribo, I think, if I'm being honest, Jose, yes, he scored a goal, and yes, he hit the post. And strikers are supposed to hit the goal 100%, but I don't think he was really that active, right? I don't think he got a ton of service from DC United, where he's used to getting a lot more in Philadelphia. And granted, yeah, gets the one ball that he needed and puts it in the back of the net. But I thought for the most part, Tai was pretty quiet, dropping deep to collect on the ball. At times, it looked like DC didn't even have an outlet up front because he's dropping deep to get touches and spring the attack. We saw a lot of counterattacking from DC United in this game, which we didn't necessarily see last year, which I think is, if you're a DC United fan, that's a positive take out of game one. That, yeah, a lot of counterattacks in this game. And granted, those counterattacks didn't really go anywhere, but it's something we didn't see last year in the 2 games against the Philadelphia Union, that's for sure. I know there's fans online that thought maybe Tai should have been sent off for an elbow on Sery Larsen in this game. I do think Tai sold a couple of those challenges from Sery Larsen, which I love that battle all night long. I thought Sery had a really solid game, and we'll talk about the different debuts a little bit later, and I have a clip I'll play from Sery Larsen talking how he found his first game in MLS. But yeah, I don't think Tai had a huge game. Yes, he scores a goal, but for most parts, I thought he was pretty quiet, Jose. How would you assess Tai's game?
I think he made the difference when he had to, right? I think that's what strikers do by scoring that goal. Those that were shocked by his celebration really poor on my part to not have reported on it. I know there was a paywall, so I also wanted to be fair to our friends at Sirius XM. I was able to get a recording of Tai Baribo's interview. I think it was like a quick 10-minute spot. Thank you to Jillian Almany for sending that along. But during that interview, he had mentioned, I'm not truly sure what I'm going to do if I score, which after watching that celebration, I'm pretty damn sure he knew what he was going to do. And it was all just sort of talk for the radio or the spot at the moment.
Especially the first goal that he scores that's offside. He celebrated so hard. And then when he gets his second goal, he celebrates the same exact way.
Yes. So to me, it's like, okay, brother, you knew what you were doing, which is fine. Listen, it's not lost on me that he's a guy that was, and Todd and audience, please correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm maybe framing it the wrong way, but like he was pretty mistreated by Philadelphia that first year, like a pretty hard in terms of, and maybe that isn't fair to say. Now I'm sort of like walking it back, but like a player that they had spent some significant money for the Philadelphia Union of all teams, sort of just being completely sidelined. I remember his debut in Leagues Cup. Was it that embarrassing 1 minute trot where he got one sprint to the corner and it was the final whistle? If I recall, Jim even apologized for that during the press conference. If I recall, I could be wrong. But this is a player who obviously maybe felt done wrong. I can't blame him for it. And anybody feeling hurt or whatever, like, come on, get over it. Like, if I recall, just from seeing comments, the Union fans that were at Audi Field, and Todd, tell me, booed the hell out of him apparently during introductions at Audi Field.
I'll be honest, Jose. You've been to Audi Field before. They usually have the press box open. They moved the glass. They kept them closed, so it was really hard to hear anything. So I'm not sure, to be honest.
Sure. I guess I read from multiple people that I can actually feel comfortable saying that did happen. Supposedly Union fans booed the guy, and that's totally fuel for the man to go ahead and feel comfortable celebrating. So listen, I don't have any qualms. I thought he was totally fine. He made the difference when it mattered most, and that's really all that matters, right? That's all that the score sheet will remember, the only thing that most people will remember. And I think I would even go as far as say that we will remember when we look back at match week 1, when we're, match week 33, looking back at the beginning of the year, we'll think it's like, oh, Tai Baribo made the difference. He was the sole goal, barring this really bizarre red card that I'm sure we're going to touch on. But Baribo was fine. Totally fine. But let's carry on. I'm so excited to talk about the rest of this match.
Yeah, so I mean, we can go ahead and talk about the lack of attack from the Union, and I guess the one thing that I noticed as this game was going on, and I was like, okay, I need to go and pull up the stat sheet, and I'll go ahead and share this on screen so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about for people who are watching live, people that are going back to watch the video. That's why I say every single episode, watch live, go back and watch the video. We always share stuff. We always, whether it be a press conference clip, jerseys, whatever the case may be. I mean, we're very active online. So this is, hopefully you guys can see this. This is the touch map between Ezekiel, Alladoh, and Bruno Damiani. And so from right to left, that's the way the Union are attacking. And so right here, I don't know if you guys can see my cursor on the screen. Can you guys see me moving this, Jose? Maybe? No?
I said yes. Sorry, I
was
myself.
Yeah. So right here, I mean, you can see only 3 touches in the penalty area for the Union's big men. You have 2 from Ezekiel Alladoh, which is a backward pass. You have another backwards pass from Alladoh, and then a shot from Damiani, which wound up getting blocked. But when you have 2 big men in Ezekiel Alladoh and Bruno Damiani, this is not where you want them taking touches, well outside the 18-yard box. I mean, even in the defensive half of the field, I mean, you never want to see your strikers taking touches this deep. And then this, I would imagine, 5 minutes into the game, a touch for Alladoh inside the penalty box. I would imagine that was probably clearing a corner kick or something like that. But yeah, you want to see your strikers get touches inside that 18, you want to see them maybe around the 20, 25-ish yard line, get touches, but no way close to the center circle, Jose. You don't want to see them get 3 touches inside the penalty area. And I had said to Bruno after the game, I said, one of your strong suits is your physicality inside the box. And why? Why, in your opinion, do you feel like DC United hadn't made it tough? And he had basically said he didn't believe that they were creative enough, that they were way too predictable. And Jonathan Tannenwald had asked Damiani a similar question beforehand, and so we'll go ahead and play Bruno's thoughts on what he thought the reasoning was why the Union struggled to get going at all in this game offensively against DC United.
I think we didn't play as good as we can do it. Mostly we were always playing through the right side, and they realized really quick. So they being in the jump every time the ball went that side. So we create a very predictable attacking, and I think that was our mistake. Maybe in the second half, everything started going like weird after the red card, but it was a good reaction, and then we start creating some different kind of plays, and that was the key maybe of the second half, to have like at least 1 or 2 chances. But yeah, that was, I think, the bigger mistake.
Yeah, and I don't think Damiani's telling a lie there, Jose. When you have Frankie Westfield lined up to be the starting left back, who we all know isn't a natural left back, and then he pulls out because Cornell says after the game that, yeah, it was Frankie's hamstring and he didn't feel 100%, and he didn't want to push it and potentially be out longer than hopefully a couple of days. And so Bradley was happy with Frankie taking that accountability and saying, I can't go. I'm not 100%. I don't want to get injured. That's great. And then you throw in Finn Sundstrom, who is a center back, and I've said it multiple times, I think long term he probably fits in better as a defensive midfielder, but he's not a left back, and you don't have any other left backs on the roster, so you throw him out there, and then Finn winds up getting hurt with his ankle. It starts to swell up, and then you move him out and put Geiner Martínez out there at left back, and even at one point you switch the formation once Alladoh gets the red card, and now you're playing 3 in the back, and you had Macania playing as the wide left center back in a back 3. And so when you don't have a natural left back where you can go and attack on the left side of the field, you become very one-dimensional. And we saw that multiple times, even when the Union were up at 10 men, just kept trying to go down the right side of the field with Nathan Harry or with Indiana Vassilev. And as Bruno rightly called out, it was too predictable. If somebody like myself, not a professional player, not working professionally in an organization, can tell that, yeah, this is too predictable, the players sure can see that. And yeah, I mean, credit to Bruno for coming out and saying that, yeah, the attack was way too predictable on the night.
Oh my gosh, Todd, there's so much to sort of break in all you shared. Let me start off with the touches, and maybe this is where I am half full and maybe overly positive. Those 2 Alladoh touches that were passes back were actually, if I recall correctly, very good layoff opportunities that someone could have just maybe put their foot through it, but in very Union fashion, I think tried to sort of maybe dribble their way through 2 more players instead of just booting it and trying to get a deflection. There was also that sequence, and I think if you go to the upper right of that touch inside the box, the highest touch inside the box, if you go maybe like take that off, if you go one more to the right and lower, I forget which one it was. It was one of those over there where that's where Alladoh, and you probably caught this mid-game, he was holding off 2 players at the very same time with his insane strength of just like literally putting his arms out and just being able to hold off 2 players. I think I posted a clip online of it. If not, I'll make sure to post it. But it was one of those moments where I'm like, holy shit, this guy's really going to get a ton of assists, or he should be getting himself a lot of assists, even with the generous, actually even more with the generous system that MLS has with secondary assists. So I guess I wasn't too upset about him only having 2 touches inside the box. Of course, you would want him to have more, but I found a positive that he's finding himself in situations like, okay, I can't turn, I can't face the net. Let me put my teammates in good positions to maybe do something with the ball. But again, the Union just couldn't just blast it, try to get a deflection. To Bruno's comments, I think he's definitely bang on. My goodness, like everything was through the right. And I guess what I would say too is to maybe, I know a lot of our press mates, Todd, who are maybe not as delicate with their words about performances, give the guy a little grace in Finn Sundstrom. I mean, this is a player who, per a source, getting a text message after the game, didn't know that he was starting up until maybe 9 or 10 minutes before the game started, was literally tossed into it. And that's just not an easy thing to do, no matter what type of professional you are. I know that they also commented on, him being substituted at half and maybe framed it as a skill issue, or even I think labeling it that Carnell was lying about Finn's injury. I'm told that's not true. I'm told that Finn's ankle was the size of a baseball at halftime. So go ahead.
One thing I would say, the goal that DC scored, that looked to be when Finn potentially hurt his ankle when he got tangled up with the attacker. Finn went to make a challenge and then he falls to the ground. The attacker is also following on him, and that potentially could have been when Finn hurt his ankle. And so, yeah, I saw those comments too. People like, oh, he's just trying to protect the player. I don't know. I mean, when the game's playing that fast and when you take a challenge like that, trying to win the ball back and the attacker's falling onto your ankle, yeah, I think give Finn the benefit of the doubt that they're not lying.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I haven't seen Finn's ankle. I'm not looking to see Finn's ankle. I trust this person who told me that, the ankle was pretty swollen. So it is what it is. So I give the guy a little grace. Did it improve once Finn came out? I'm guessing after this injury, which I agree with you, it probably felt like it was just during that play. I think so. But then it totally got tilted once that red card happened. It was tough, though. The Union still had chances, despite being a man down. So, I sure hope that Philippe Ndinga brings a different angle to this whole thing and doesn't make it as predictable. And I also hope that the Union find a way to be more predictable than just pumping in crosses and hoping for the best. I really do think, and to hear it from Bruno sort of continues to validate my understanding of Ezekiel's attributes, which is incredible strength and incredible speed with some, obviously finishing ability as well. So giving him and getting him into space is going to be critical, especially when games start opening up towards the later stages of a match. So I don't know what else it is to add about this. Obviously, rust from a preseason, and I think a lot of people were riding unbelievably high after Defense Force, but Defense Force does not equal DC United, even how bad they were last year.
And that's something that I try to say on the last podcast, and I think that's something that Bradley Cornell was trying to get across in his pregame press conference before this game on Saturday, saying that it's a lottery. It's a crapshoot. You don't really know what you're going to get. A lot of rust, and that's not an excuse. But I think Bradley's spot on. You don't know what to expect, and you go from Defense Force, who are ranked 85th in the world in the Concacaf rankings, to the 12th highest team in Philadelphia Union. It's a massive step off, and you could see the quality difference. But you guys heard why Bruno Damiani thought the offense struggled to attack. This is why Bradley Cornell thought that the Union struggled to attack offensively on the night.
When we turned over the balls, I think in the first half, we didn't retain the balls as well as I would have hoped and expected, to find Indy and Milan between the lines, or even, getting our strikers on the move and stretching their back line a little bit. So, we try to hold up the balls, and we did see some better progressive play as the game went on. But unfortunately, we couldn't, get into those free spaces down the channels. And then you work the space. So once you stretch them one way, then the space gets open underneath a little bit. So we didn't really have those moments for us. And again, listen, we've had a long, no excuses. We've had a long preseason. We had a long trip and everything. You know, no excuses. Guys are a bit leggy and what have you. But I mean, we have to find ways. And in the game, when we work so hard to win the ball and then give it back away straight away. So these are some of the things that, you know, a little bit of rust still coming through the preseason and the leg's still a bit heavy. So, but yeah, nothing more than that.
And that's one thing too that frustrated me on this game, and not to single anybody out. And there was a couple times Makanya turned over the ball with bad passes, and then it led to yellow cards for his teammates. Martinez, when he first came in, it seemed like he played a couple errant passes across the field, and I was like, what are you doing? These are dangerous balls. You can't play. I know Indy had a couple bad passes. I know that there were Jesus Bueno had a couple bad passes. I mean, it wasn't just one player. The team as a whole, there was just bad passes back. There was a play in the second half of the field where Anello passes it short to Indiana Vassilev, and then DC United go on the counterattack, and luckily nothing amounted to it. But the passing, Jose, I think Cornell's spot on. They work hard to win back the ball, and that's exactly what Cornell and his staff wants. They want to see you work hard defensively, but it's like you give possession right back. And now DC's going the other way. I mentioned it, Jose. This DC team wanted to counterattack. We didn't really see that too much last season, and there were multiple opportunities. And yes, there was some rust for sure on DC United's belt where they couldn't finish some of those chances, when they couldn't capitalize on those chances. Maybe they were missing just that one final pass to bury the Union. But
Yeah, and
there's
go
multiple
ahead.
times that the passing from the Union wasn't good enough, and we all know it. The Union aren't a possession-based team, but you do want to see a little bit quality on the ball where you're not making these just errant passes.
And that's just it. I think more than ever, I think we noticed it last year when it when he wasn't on the field, but Jovan Lukic is just such a big piece of what this team does well in terms of connecting defense to attack. If not, defense is completely skipping the middle because they feel comfortable enough doing it. I think Jovan was honestly a big piece of what went wrong, meaning that him not being there was a big piece of what went wrong. Jesus Bueno, I think, had a really difficult game to judge on a positive way. In a positive way, I think he actually played kind of poor, and I don't usually, call out players like that, but I felt like that was one of those games where, like, my goodness, I don't know how many passes you've just pissed away. Finn, I'm guessing injured too, pissed away a few passes. I think of one where he tried to play the ball back to Jaff. I just call him Sery Larsen. That feels more natural. Sorry. Out on the sideline, and it went completely out of bounds for a throw in high up the Union's defensive end. So a lot of passes that, again, I think with shaking off and removing the rust of a offseason / preseason, you don't see later in the season, but ultimately was the demise for the Union this game against DC. But probably a bigger topic of conversation is just what happened with Ezekiel Alladoh, that I think more or less, I don't know, if you're a betting man, I guess, diminished the possibility, as Apple likes to advertise now, or has been for the last couple of years, of Philadelphia coming away with a draw or a victory. But that Alladoh red car, man, what a weird sequence of event. Were you all in the press box as confused as we were at home?
Oh, absolutely. At first, I mean, there was a couple of us saying that, did he spit on him? It looks like he potentially spit on him, because Alladoh, you see standing over him, and it's like where the press box is in the field, you can't really see exactly what's happening. The cameras are obviously far away, and so you can't really see, okay, is it a spitting motion? And so we're like, nah, it can't be that. But you just hear the whole press box trying to say, what is it? What is it? What happened? Some people were like, did he step on him? Is that why? And when we got the replay, we're like, no, it wasn't that. We were genuinely confused what the issue would have been. And so for listeners, people that are live that are unfamiliar, MLS teams have designated pool reporters. So there's 3 per team, people in the media that don't work for the club. But their job essentially is, if there's controversial calls in the game, they write a question to the referees get it back to those pool reporters to report on why they made the call. And so we're still waiting until after the game, and I don't think Bradley Cornell had got an explanation yet exactly why Alladoh was tossed. And so afterwards, after the press conference, we hear that Alladoh was sent off because he directed an obscene gesture and language at Lucas Bartlett, the DC United captain, resulting in a red card for offensive, insulting, and abusive language / actions. And Bradley Cornell, again, in his press conference, wasn't sure exactly what was said. I know Bradley came out and said, there's things said where, verbal pleasantries are always exchanged in games. And Bradley did admit that there are certain things you can't say. But again, he wasn't sure what was said. He said the union will absolutely do their investigation to see what was or wasn't said. But he said the one thing you never want this to turn into is a he said, she said opportunity moment. And I agree with Cornell. And he was asked afterwards too, as all the players have, all the staff went through the league mandated trainings for MLS's anti-discrimination policies. And Cornell said, yes, absolutely they did. But again, nobody really knew what was said. Nobody knew. And you get this report from the referee after the game, from the pool reporter. But again, we still don't know exactly what was said. Do we find out later in the week, Jose, what was said? Will MLS come out and say what was said, or does this get brushed aside? I guess we shall see. But the whole situation was just extremely, extremely weird.
Yeah, I don't even know where to begin with this one. Obviously, the levels of soccer I've ever played in my life don't come anywhere near what these guys play and will play in the future. But like, I said god awful things to people while playing soccer, like unbelievably bad things, never crossing the line of racism or anything crazy, but just, like, I guess Bradley Cornell will label it as banter, right? I'm a competitive guy. I like to go out there. And if I get hit once or twice, I'm going to let you know I didn't appreciate it. If I get hit a third time, I'm really going to let you know how I feel about you. And ultimately the fourth time I'll reciprocate a little bit, but I don't know. Rules are rules. I get that. Totally get that. The players have these meetings with the refs ahead of the season. They really walk through it. They really, really get the lowdown on what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. But that one felt unbelievably soft. Again, we don't know exactly what was said. I don't think that anybody should be speculating. I saw a lot of ultimately shit being tossed around on the internet of like, oh, it was spitting. He must have called him a homophobic F word. He must have done something, must have said something. It's like, well, give the guy the benefit of the doubt. Like, maybe just wait till the facts come out, and as far as they will be willing to share.
And English isn't his first language either. Let's not forget that.
And that's the thing, and watching videos over the past 12 hours of what Ezekiel sounds like and sort of the sentence structure that he's able to string together, at least from the videos that are available. It's not like the guy is, it's not like he's not unable to communicate, but it's not like he's going on to have, Shakespeare-like sentences with somebody calling someone an insult, right? Like, he's not having some incredibly complex sentences in the middle of a game. So I don't know. I this one, I usually like tend to not necessarily lean towards the referee, but give the referee like, okay, like, it's a difficult job. I get it. But like, this one felt like the softest red I've seen in a long, long time. And whether Pro realizes it, this is again, I don't know, maybe I need to ask some other people, but like, it feels like it's another precedent set by Pro against the Union. Remember the double VAR a couple of years back at Montreal with the VAR for the VAR on a ball that went a player that was it Kai that was past the end line and then they crossed it and they had to VAR the VAR. That was a precedent that was set. And now sort of seeing this with the straight red after whatever the comment was and the gesture, it just doesn't, it didn't feel, it felt a little soft and really not fair to the type of game that it could have been in the last 10, 15, 20 minutes, whenever it was.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a strange situation, and with MLS, you never know exactly what kind of answers you'll get. But to flip it, a lot of debuts for the Philadelphia Union players last night, and we don't have to spend time talking about every single player, Jose. I know. It seemed like the whole team made their debut. You had Sery Larsen make his debut. You had Finn Sundstrom make his debut. You had Alladoh make his debut. You had Stas Korzynowski make his debut. You had Geiner Martínez make his debut. You had Anello make his debut. All in MLS. I know some of these guys made their debut for the team officially in the Concacaf Champions Cup, but they all made their MLS debut. They had their patches on that said debut. But any player, Jose, in particular for you that stood out of the new guys that made their debut? I have two players in mind.
Okay, go ahead.
I would say Anello. I thought he was positive coming off the bench last night. We had a lot of comments, people saying that. Jarrett said once Anello and Cavan came on, the whole game changed. So obviously thought that Anello made a difference. John said earlier they play better a man down than a man up. Somebody else had said that too in the press after the game was over. Won't name names. I thought I saw a couple more people in the comment section that said Anello looked good. Drew said Anello looked promising. Yeah, there was moments where Anello was confident, comfortable taking players on 1v1. Let's not forget he earned the free kick at the last kick of the game for Cavan Sullivan to play that ball in for Wethu Makanya, who heads it wide, which I think if he leaves that, Danley has a chance to head that one on target, beats his defender as well. But we saw a lot of promising moments, I thought, from Anello, finding space, attacking space, 1v1. Came in, played on the left side of the field, which we know in Boston River, he played as the left winger, definitely more comfortable on that side. I know I mentioned earlier, too, he was on the right side of the field, and he tries to do a fake dribble, and then he passes it short to Indiana Vasilov, and then DC United hit on the counterattack. But, yeah, I liked what I saw from Anello on the night. But I think out of all the debutants, Sery Larsen was the best. I thought he looked really comfortable in 1v1 defending. I think he was extremely comfortable on the ball. Played a couple good floating balls up for it. He even pulled out an inner. Jacob Glesnes had a lot of space to run into, and then he plays this cutback pass for Damiani that winds up getting blocked. But, yeah, it seemed like Sery Larsen had been with the Union for years with the kind of play that he brought on the night. I thought he did well 1v1 against Tai Baribo. But again, Jose, any of the guys, maybe somebody I mentioned that impressed you on their debut?
I would agree with Sery Larsen. I saw a lot of promise in that debut. I think adjusting to, again, fill in some pretty big shoes and Glesnes. When you look at Glesnes' whole body of work, and certainly don't skip over that 2024 season because that was not good, not great. But I see the promise again. Like, I know I'm maybe unbelievably high on the guy, and I hope I don't have to eat my words, but I was impressed with Ezekiel again, doing some really good hold up play with what he could. Again, unbelievably predictable. So like, if everything's going down the right, it's very easy to double team a player like him. And once again, I'll have to share that clip, but the strength this guy has is gonna be trouble for a lot of MLS defenses this year. I'm really intrigued to see how it all shakes out, and hopefully it goes well. And I guess outside of the field, Jared Cordoba 1261 just reminded me. MVP of the game outside the game, Jesus Acosta. I highlighted him earlier today. due to the staffing changes on the Spanish side, since Apple no longer wants to be a loss leader in what should be the one category where they should be loss leaders in providing the language opportunity for the audience, the Spanish audience, as they're trying to grow the game. Entire game as a solo commentator is not easy. And he made it unbelievably entertaining, held his own, certainly not the first time he's ever done it. So shout out to him, man. I know we talk a lot about the players, we talk a lot about the coaches, but even at the edges of the game, if you will, there are some MVPs out there that are just growing the game as a whole.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. We've talked about how much of a joke it is for MLS to cut their Spanish broadcast in half. Before the season started, there was a couple MLS reporters that have been with them for a couple years on Apple TV that have been in MLS for the last couple years, told that they weren't going to be brought back from for MLS commentary. And I don't know. That was also a topic of discussion before the game with a whole bunch of people in the press box. I don't know what Apple's doing. I don't know what MLS is doing. It's clearly causing a lot of people to be upset, and maybe Apple, maybe MLS doesn't care, and if they can save money here and there, of course they'll take that opportunity. But I do want to play one more clip from a player. This was Sery Larsen talking about how he found his debut in MLS last night against DC United.
It was a fight out there, but we were prepared for that. I was told it was going to be hard. It's hard to come to DC and play here. I enjoyed my debut. Obviously, I want to win. I want the 3 points. That's why we're here. But I think as a team we will grow from now on. There's a lot to take out of this game and to learn on and reflect over. So we have to do that. But of course, it's nice to be here. I came to play games, and it's fun to play games now.
Yeah, I'm sure it's how a lot of the players feel that they're playing official games, no more preseason games, and to see what the league's all about. But I do want to give a shout out real quick, and maybe people in the comment section too can say Union PR staff. So I do appreciate them for allowing me to record video of the players, because look, I think you guys know, right? You guys want to see more of these players. Yeah, it is one thing to hear audio from the players, and I try to make it a goal of mine to put as many videos of the players in my Substack articles. I try to play videos of the players here on the podcast as much as I can. And so that was really encouraging, and I'm very, very grateful that the Union PR staff allowed me to record video, and hopefully there's more to come. And yeah, I think you guys, the listeners, and maybe people that don't even listen to the podcast, they want to see more of these players, right? Let's get more of those stories out there. So I do appreciate the Union PR staff once again for allowing me to record the player interviews after the game. But yeah, Sery Larsen, I think he's going to be a really, really good piece for the Union. He's quick too, Jose. Very, very quick. That is the one thing I noticed in trying to wrap this all up in positives or bring up one more player here. But you saw a lot of speed on the Union, and that's not necessarily what they've had the last couple of years. And so to see, we knew Macania fast because of last year. Sery Larsen looked quick. I thought Anello looked pretty good 1v1 dribbling. Alladoh is extremely quick. We know that. I think Geiner Martínez, there was times too where it looked like, okay, he was beat and he caught up to the attacker. So having speed is definitely a positive for this team. But the last thing I want to talk about is, yes, we haven't spoken about him, I feel like, a lot on this podcast, but it is due that we talk about Cavan Sullivan, and we don't have to spend a ton of time talking about Cavan, but I thought he had a really good game, Jose, and we were getting a lot of comments that people were saying that they want to see Cavan start. They want to see Cavan play, and yeah, I think Cavan does start on Thursday against Defense Force, but even if the Union went up by 5 goals in that game, I think because of the appearances that we've seen now the last 2 games for Cavan off the bench, I think he's justified in starting, Jose. Both games, he's looked very, very promising. We know the number one thing that Bradley Cornell wants to see out of his players is their counter pressing. They're tracking back, winning the ball back. And you saw that from Cavan Sullivan last night. And Bradley made it a point talking about, yeah, it's difficult. It is difficult to get these guys going when you're down a man and a team's going to bunker down defensively and you try to break them down. But Cavan, I thought, provided a spark last night. And this is what Bradley Cornell had to say on Cavan's appearance off the bench.
Yeah, really good. And, that's why we call him so early off the bench, because we know that with performances like that he can really help the team when we're making a push, and finding the balance between, Cavan the talent and Cavan the teammate, and he has to find that balance on the field. And I think he's finding more moments of balance, not just trying to have the ultimate wow moment in every moment. Sometimes it's a simple pass and a move, and sometimes it's a dribble, and then sometimes it's a reset. And he's finding more moments to have those experiences. And I think that's been very vital for him, whether it's been through preseason games or whether it's been now in Trinidad. And then he has the ability to come back in the game and counter press and show a bit of energy there. So a man down was a tough ask, and the way we pushed the game tactically by being still able to put pressure on the ball as well, it takes a lot. So, I'm happy with everyone's performance, but Cavan did well too.
So what do you think of Cavan's appearance off the bench last night, Jose?
Let me bounce back at you with if you didn't see what happened yesterday, another 7:30 game featured 3 under 18s involved in New York, Red Bulls against Orlando. That was the game that MLS had me focus on for the website, for the national story, whatever site or whatever you want to call it. 3 sub 18-year-old kids went, and I think 2 started, 1 came in. Julian Hall, 17, I believe, if I recall correctly, had a brace, and the Dos Santos kid and Mehmeti, both of them were actually with Michael Bradley at Red Bulls 2 for the MLS Next Pro Cup last year that they ended up winning. So I think it's showing that maybe there is something to be said about trusting the youth. Certainly they're believing it in Harrison, New Jersey at Sports. Well, this one was in Orlando, but certainly in the Red Bulls organization, maybe they're going back to the roots of sort of developing talent that way. With Cavan, I'm super intrigued. Cavan, to me, and Todd, you're certainly more of a tactical mind than I am. Cavan, to me, strikes me as a player that needs more possession than to be chasing, than to be counter pressing and hoping for a breakaway to come his way. I also want to ask you about that kickoff that the Union had yesterday. But he strikes me as a player that needs more than to be chasing. And I don't know that this system is the one that fits for him. But when he came in yesterday chasing the game where they needed to pin him down, it needed to break down was it fair to call a low block at that point?
100%.
Okay, break down a low block. He was the perfect man for it because he's not afraid to dribble at people. So
Exactly.
he had a really good showing as a substitute because the game had developed into what was perfect for him versus maybe being part of an open game where he has to play a different role that rather than being the dribble guy. I'm wondering if there's a way for Cornell to adapt it so he can get the most out of someone who is likely generational for the Union. I know that sounds super hyperbolic, but I wonder if there's a way to adapt the game to get the most out of Cavan, because as I've been saying, as you've been saying and heard me say many, many times, it's sort of a countdown clock until Cavan departs Philadelphia, right? It's sort of, okay, it's who said one now or never? It's like, it's got to start happening. It's got to start moving here, the machine. But I'm also the same person who was critical about tossing Cavan into a 3-0 game in Trinidad and Tobago against players whose season don't start till the summer, and grown men. So I'm eager to see what happens on Thursday at Subaru Park, because that's a very meaningless game in a way. What lineup goes out there, and is Cavan a big part of it? I think that's one of the biggest storylines going into Thursday.
Well, Cavan should be. I mean, you're up 5-0, and I know maybe you were a little bit indifferent with Cavan coming off the bench when you're up that much, when it's going to be a hostile game where Defense Force don't really have much to play for. And yeah, I mean, there were some hard crunching tackles towards the end of that game, and Cavan definitely took the brunt of some of those. But look, I think you get an assist against Defense Force, and it's Defense Force, but still, you get your first career assist with the Philadelphia Union, and then you come off a man down where you said it, Jose. You're playing a low block. It's tough to break teams down when they make a low block. Cavan is one of the better 1v1 dribblers on this team. I do believe so. Yeah, he might not be one of the most physical, but I will say, seeing Cavan yesterday, he definitely got taller, definitely got bigger than he was last season. And let's not forget, he's only 16 years old. He's still going to continue to grow into his body. He's still going to continue to get taller, I do believe. And the fans, and there was comments saying, oh, Indiana Vasilov had one of his worst games, Indy this, Indy that. Cavan needs to be starting over Indy, and I think we all know this by now, that Indy's one of Cornell's guys. And yeah, for what Indy didn't do offensively, what he doesn't do offensively, he provides it defensively for the Union, winning the ball back, pressing, all that stuff. And so, yeah, I think when you do need a spark, Cavan should be one of the first players coming off the bench. I think there should be games. I think Thursday is the perfect game to throw Cavan out there to make a start, because he's looked promising coming off the bench. And so, yeah, we'll see exactly what happens on Thursday against Defense Force. And I had said it at the beginning, even if the Union went up 5-0, I think the two performances off the bench from Cavan is enough to justify, in my opinion, that he needs to get more playing time or a start, I should say, because he will get playing time, I believe, like you said, Jose. The clock is ticking. Once he's 18, he's off to Man City, and I do wonder, and it's not a bad thing, right? Let's say Cavan,
or one of the many clubs that Man City own.
That's what I was going to say. Cavan, if he impresses so much, then Manchester City has that option to recall him early and send him out to one of the city clubs, which, yeah, I think Union fans would be ticked off about that. But at the same time, too, right? That tells you that Cavan is playing extremely well, if that's something that Man City would do. So we shall see what happens Thursday. Me personally, I would start Cavan. And yeah, nothing else to add. Again, we see all the comments talking about Yerevan was a big miss. I do agree with that. We see all the comments that you guys are agreeing with Cavan, and just all the comments that we haven't been able to pull up so far on the show. I do want to go ahead and bring up Blunder of the week. And I'm sure a lot of people would say the referee performance last night. I know there was a situation with Messi approaching the referees after the game, going towards the locker room. I know MLS came out and said that essentially it was no big deal and whatnot. And I see people saying on social media that, oh, it's MLS playing favoritism. You suspend Matt Miazga for going to the locker room of the referees, but Messi following the referees, you're not going to do anything about. Look, I get it. Messi's Messi, and yeah, I don't think there is any denying that Messi will receive special treatment. But my issue is, and I'm still so sour over this, Jose, is the broadcast or the press conference quality from last Wednesday's Concacaf Champions Cup game between Defense Force and Philadelphia Union. I'm going to play like a 10 to 11 second clip so you guys can hear how horrible this is. This might be a bad idea, playing this for people back on the RSS feed, because the quality is just so bad. But you guys need to see what we dealt with after the game. This is unacceptable for an organization like Concacaf.
Good preparation, preparing for this game, but also preparing for our first round in the MLS Saturday. So,
I mean, what can you guys hear? What can you guys hear? I mean, it sounds like it's just coming out of the left headphone. If you guys are listening back on headphones, I'm pretty sure it was just panned to one side. It was so bad. It was so laughable that the quality of the microphone not coming through the laptop. It's like, how are you supposed to get quotes for a match report. I mean, I was just so taken back. I've been a part of so many different press conferences with away teams, with the Philadelphia Union, which the Union do have one of the better setups, I shall say, amongst all MLS teams. But I cannot believe how terrible that quality was, Jose.
Not good.
To be fair, point one, they had cool little foam cutouts that say CONCACAF Champions Cup. So that was cool. I'm sure we're gonna see those at Subaru Park on Thursday, right? They're gonna place them neatly next to Bradley Cornell and whatever, like do that branding nonsense that they got to do. And I think you just got to cut them a little slack, Todd. And this is where I'll come at you a little bit. Gotta give those folks a little slack, especially with it being Carnival. Maybe the audio engineers had just experienced 2 full days of fornication and couldn't get the audio right for the press conference. So give them a break, okay? Maybe they were just coming back from church after those 2 days. So I don't know, man. Just cut them some slack.
Yeah, it was terrible, man. I don't know. I forget how soon CONCACAF gets to the venues to go ahead and set up, but the press conference was a lot better, more clear prior to this
Absolute
game
fornication.
to hear Bradley Cornell, and then after the game, you guys just heard it, like what is Cornell saying? The echo in the room, it was horrible. So yes, CONCACAF gets my blunder of the week, and hopefully nobody at CONCACAF is listening to me and they don't decide to give me press credentials for Thursday's game. But look, it's all fun. Look, we try not to take ourselves too serious with the blunder of the week, but maybe some people do get offended with blunder of the week. But Jose, it's been a little bit over an hour for the podcast. You definitely helped. I think this podcast could have went a lot longer, so you helped get the ball rolling to, all right, let's move on. So I appreciate you for that. But anything you want to link, anything you want to let the fine folks listening keep an eye on that you have up and coming?
Just keeping my ear to the ground with potential moves here and there. I was sort of, I wouldn't say blindsided. I was sort of shocked to hear about CJ Olney when I did, and then ultimately doing the legwork to confirm it with multiple people. So continue to keep on that. Once again, my article on the New York Red Bulls, or I should say the match reaction on the New York Red Bulls, really cool victory. Really, really cool to see with the youth against a not so great Orlando side, by the way. But nonetheless, they got it done away from home. Same way that the Union did last year, if I recall, to start the season. Is up on MLSsoccer.com, probably buried at this point with how much has happened since the Red Bull game with an LAFC victory over Inter Miami, and then a draw today between New York and LA. And what a fun game Portland was against Columbus. And one side comment, maybe an op-ed needs to, an op-ed, I should say, an opinion piece needs to be written about the unbelievable swindling that the Daniel Gastag sale has turned into. A man that was an everyday starter for Philadelphia getting about 8 minutes with Columbus nowadays. What a fleecing by Philadelphia when you think about it all. I don't get anything extra, T-Mac. I'm not suggesting you go just click and not read. Please don't do that. I get paid by the hour. There's no need to do that. If you're genuinely curious, please read that from MLSsoccer.com. Share it if you want to as well. And I think, Todd, you and I and Mike will continue to do as much as we can post-game shows and certainly pre-game shows whenever it's appropriate. But maybe starting to think a little bit onto getting back into maybe those longer form interviews with people. I think the Kai Wagner and Danny Cruz interviews really energized me to get back to it. Whether I'm good at them, whether I'm bad at them, I don't know. I certainly enjoy them. So excited to sort of start thinking about that and just picking some names to try to connect with, but a little difficult now that everybody's going back into season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do have your article linked on the live stream for people that want to check that out. And I gotta say, Jose, what a title! Young Ballers, Red Bull Kids shining Michael Bradley's debut.
Not my title, I'll tell you that.
Oh, man, I give you the credit. I do like the the title of that article. But yeah, for people who are watching this live, or if you're going back, go ahead and click on Jose's article for MLS up there on the left-hand side of your screen. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod, wherever you get your podcast, The Free Kick. And check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/freekickpod. And I will have a goals breakdown video out for you guys either late on Monday or Tuesday. And then if you guys want to go ahead and check out the Free Kick podcast.substack.com, that's where you can get the podcast, the writing, and the goals breakdown videos all in one place. But yeah, I mean, when you have multiple competitions, when you have so much that you're trying to do to cover and keep fans informed, I think it is right, Jose, to not try to force everything on one day. So yeah, that's essentially why I did not do the goals breakdown video on Sunday. It's because getting home last night, I was like, man, like this is kicking my butt, dude. Like I just turned 30 years old. I'm like, I feel like a 50-year-old man, dude. Like my body is just so tired, so sore from being out so late and dealing with DC traffic, which I was shocked that there was DC traffic that late at night. And I do feel bad for Kyle Omni having to drive the rest of the way from my house to Lancaster. I'm like, dude, you're not getting home until like 2 o'clock in the morning. I feel so terrible. But it is a lot of fun getting down to away games as much as I can to travel. And I do try to get out to as many as I can. And I know, Jose, you make it a point to try to get out to as many as you can. Like there are people in the media that tell you guys, hey, we're going to get out to away games and we're going to get out there. And I was really, really happy that we were able to do that for the first game of the season, which was a first for me too, an away game. To open the MLS season with an away game felt a little bit odd, but yeah, it was pretty cool too to start the season on the road. And the people for the Philadelphia Union's organization, whether that be Bradley Cornell, the PR staff, the players, they all appreciated all of us that went down to cover this team in person. So I do appreciate you guys for always checking out the work that Jose and I put out. Mike Barrera, Kyle and Jillian Almany, and Todd Train debacle. Yes. We do all remember that in New York City, or to New York City last year. Did not take the train down to DC. Not worth to take the train down, just drive. But hopefully a train debacle doesn't happen this year for me, but we shall see. But yeah, have something.
I'm gonna force you to. I'm gonna force you to stay at my house for a train to avoid train debacles when we go to New York this year.
Look, that was not my fault. I left in plenty of time. I cannot control people not knowing how to drive in Philadelphia. 2 crashes on the exit to get into the city. 2. That is not my fault. I cannot control how people drive. Google Maps told me that I have plenty of time, and what do I know? Now I know for next time. I'm going up to Philadelphia on Thursday. I have something really, really cool happening. So maybe I should just leave first thing in the morning and make sure I'm in the city with plenty of time to spare. So yeah, it's cool seeing the support you guys give us, and it is cool going to different MLS stadiums. So Jose and I will be back Monday, maybe next week. I don't know. Maybe we do a podcast quickly on Friday after the Defense Force game. I don't know. We shall see. But we appreciate the support, people. So with that said, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.